Hello everyone, and welcome to the tutorial that accompanies the kit for my hand needle felted angels. So these are some of the angels that you can make if you decide to go ahead with the kit. They come in lots of different colours. I have lots of different coloured felt available, and if you decide you'd like a kit, then you can PM me at the end of the video and we can arrange what colours you like. In your kit you will get enough materials to make 2 angels, and the kit including postage and all your materials is €20. So in the kit you will get your nude coloured felt to make your angel's head and arms. You will get 2 colours for a dress, so today I'm going to use orange for the video. You'll get white for her wings. You'll get your felting board, your felting needle, and you'll also get some illusion cord which you will use for hanging up your angel. So that's everything that comes in the kit. So let's get on with it now and make the angel. So the first thing you do is you take a piece of your felt. You tie a knot in the center of it, like this, and then you wrap the tail ends around the knot. And then you're going to start felting. So you place it onto your felting board and you take your felting needle and you start working the needle into the circle, and you keep turning it. You want it to form a ball, and you will keep turning it and working on it until you have formed a fairly solid ball. Now you won't want it to be hard, but you do need it to be firm. It will take a few minutes to do this, so you just keep working on it, minding your fingers, because this needle has a barbed end on it, and when it goes into your finger, believe me, it hurts. So keep working until you have a ball formed like this. Now you can see it's fairly firm, but it's not hard, and it's nice and round, and that gives you the inside of the angel's head. When you have that done, you then take your next piece of felt, and this is going to form her face. So take that, and from the end pull a tail. Bend it in half to find the midway point, and take your tail and tie it around that midway point in a double knot, just to secure it in place. That will be the top of her head, and that will be covered by her hair at the end of the video, or at the end of the process. So this is what you have. It looks like a moustache. Then you take the ball and you place that over the ball, and carefully then tease the fibres around to cover the ball. It's worth taking your time to do this to get the fibres nice and even around the ball to cover it. So you'll have this then, front and back. And when you get to it, you can look and decide which side you think looks the best, and that can be the front. Once you have that done, hold it underneath the ball and again pull another tail. Take that tail and wrap it right under the ball, nice and tight, to form her neck. Place it back on your felting mat and work through it. So by doing this, what you're doing is you're securing that piece of felt in place, and turn it over and do it on both sides. It doesn't need a huge amount of work, you just want it to be secure. And that gives you this. So it's the start, it's nearly like one of those old-fashioned little peg doll shapes. So that gives you that. The next thing then you're going to do is you're going to take a small piece of felt to make her arms. So you can take that, tuck it in till you get it the length you want to be for her arms. So you can measure on your angel and work out what length you would want her arms to be. And it looks like a very small piece of felt, and it is, but you don't need a whole lot. So once you've decided what length you want them to be, again, put it down on your board and start felting this piece of felt together. So it's like this, and you're going to be working on it, and you're going to keep using your needle to tuck it in on itself. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to form a cylindrical shape to make her arms. You can take it off, turn it over, and work on the other side. And again, you're turning constantly to get the shape in place. Now this does take a good few minutes to do, but there's no rush and it's worth taking your time to do it. Now once it starts to firm up a little bit, I take it and I roll it between my hands to start getting it more of an arm shape. Now you could use a wet felting method for doing this, but I just find it's a lot of trouble to set up a whole wet felting system just to make a little arm. And I do love wet felting, but it is quite messy, and that's why I prefer needle felting. The great thing about needle felting as well is you can walk away and leave it and come back to it later on and continue on with what you're doing, and it's really an unmessy craft. So many crafts are really enjoyable, but they're also really messy. For people who don't like messy crafts, this is a great one. So you just keep working and working, turning and turning and rolling until you're happy that you have a nice firm arm that will look like this. And that's firm enough now for the arm. And it's rounded as well, it's not flat. And that you'll get that by keeping turning and keeping the rolling. The rolling helps to flatten the fibres down a bit when you warm it in your hand. So once you have that done, you want to put the arms in place. So you're going back to this little shape again and deciding which bit is your front. So this is going to be my front. And then I'm going to divide the fibres in half. So it's going to be like that. So this is the front. I've divided them in half like this. And I'm going to take the arms and place them in the middle so that they're even on both sides. Like this. And you can see already the little shape is starting to form. Then, like when you were doing the head, pull a tail from the bottom gently and wrap that tightly underneath the arms to hold the arms in place. So you can see that there where I've wrapped it around underneath the arms to hold them in place. And again, I'm going to drive the needle through that wrapped piece of yarn to felt it and hold it in place. And I turn her over and I do it on both sides. And that secures our arms in place. You don't need to overdo it, but it's just to make sure the arms are in place. And that's the little arms in place. Now I go to my colour for my dress. I bend it in half, again finding the midway point. And then here in the midway point, I just separate the fibres a little bit so that I have a hole here in the fibres. And this is how I put her dress on. Her head just goes through the hole. So it's like one of those Grecian dresses. That's how simple it's made. Fix it in place. I'm pulling her arms up to fix it in place. And then again, I'm pulling a fibre from the bottom and I'm wrapping it around underneath the arms to make a little empire line belt for those fashionistas among you, underneath her arms. So that's where I've secured it in place. Back onto the felting mat, and again through that belt with the needle. So that it secures the belt in place. And again, do it on both sides. Now, if you feel her waistline is a little bit wide here and you'd like it to be a bit narrower, pull her little arms up, turn her on her side down onto the board and felt through the side. And the more you felt, what happens is the fibres get tighter and tighter and tighter. So you decide how firm you want your felting to be. That's why needle felting looks different depending on who does it, because some people like their fibres felted really tightly, and depending what I'm doing, I like them felted really tightly. But for the angels, I like the fibres loose and more flowing, so I try not to over felt the fibres on the angel. And that's her dress in place now, her little arms and her head. Now you can see here at the side, you can still see a little bit of her body. Now you can leave that like that if you want to be able to see the double colour through it. But if you don't, just put her back down on the board and just along either side here, work the needle through the felt. And all the time being careful not to go all the way through to the table. And do it on the other side as well. And that just lightly joins the fibres together on both sides, so you can't see the body colour through the dress. So now it's like this. Then take your needle and very gently, and do this very gently, comb it through the fibres to loosen up the fibres. Sometimes when you've been handling the felt a lot, the fibres can get quite matted and twisted. And I want this to be loose and flowing. So I'm just going to work it gently through, just to soften it up a little bit. And you'll end up with this cloud effect at the bottom, where the loose fibre is, and you can just pull it away. And poof her dress back up again, or make it into a point at the bottom, whichever you prefer. And that's the basic angel made. So now we're going to give her some hair. So to make her hair, I take my hair coloured felt. And I start now, have another look, make sure you decide which piece is your favourite for her face. Take her brown hair, and from underneath her head at the bottom, wrap it around to the top, like this. So you're putting it on like a turban. This is the back of her head, this is the front. Hold it in place till you're happy where her little face is, and then very gently felt it in place around her face. Just go gently. Don't drive the needle through too hard, because you don't want the brown hair coming through the colour of her face. So at the moment I'm just going right around the outside where I have placed it, so that I can have a look and make sure. So that's held in place now. You can see she's got this mad head on the top of her, and this is held in place around her face. Then I'm going to turn her to the back, and I'm going to felt the hair onto the back of her head to fill in the gap at the back of her head. And again, I'm going to do this gently, because if I do it too hard, I'll drive the hair through the front of her face, and she'll end up with little brown marks all over the front of her face, and I don't want to do that. When you're driving the needle through, you're bringing the fibres with you. So the more you go through, the more the fibre will travel through the other colour. So there I have it secured in place now. Now I have found with my angels, I'm giving them all updos. You can see this one has two little Princess Leia bunches on either side of her head. And these little ones have little buns all on the top of their head. I don't know why that's happening with the angels, because I go with the flow when I'm making them. And depending on what I'm making, the hair sort of dictates. This is Curly Doll's hair I bought, and I put it on this. This is a fairy rather than an angel, and I gave her long curly hair. But I think because the angels have wings, I've decided that updos would be better for them, because it won't detract from the wings. So you just wrap the hair now in place. So there's her little bun on the top of her head. And again, you just felt it then onto the top of her head to keep it in place. Now, you can do whatever kind of hairdo you like on your angel. This is just what I do on mine. If you want to give her long hair, go ahead and give her long hair, or give her plaits or whatever. As I'm working on these little creatures, every one of them develops its own personality. and it ends up slightly different. I've never made two that are identical. Even when people have asked me to make a pair, I get them as close as I can, but there's always subtle little differences between them. So that's very simply how to do her hair. Now, her hair is a little boring, so I'm going to take a bit of this orange fibre that I pulled away from her dress, and I'm going to roll it into a very tight little ball here. And then I'm going to place it at the side of her bun here. And I'm going to, again, work it in and make a little flower for her hair. Now, I'm working on my angels all in one colour, but you will have two colours in your kit. So if you wanted to coordinate the colours, maybe do the dress in one of your colours and add all the little accessories and the little waist bit in the other colour, you can do that. They don't all have to be the one colour. I just like them the one colour. That's kind of what I've gone with. Now for this one here, it was a demonstration video and I actually did her wings purple. I'm going to do your wings in an orange colour, just so for the demonstration purposes the wings could be seen. It's quite hard to see it when the white wings are being worked on the white board. So that gives her her little hairdo. So that's the actual doll finished, other than her little hands now. So if you didn't want to turn her into an angel, you could leave her like that. Now I'm going to have my angel with her hands joined. So the next thing now is to put her two hands together, put her back down on the board and work the needle gently through her hands. You can see I'm just poking the needle through her hands on both sides to join her hands together. And then I'm going to put them up in a little praying position like this. Again, you don't have to do it. I just like to do it. And then I'm going to work the needle through her hands into her chest on the board. I'm going to do it on the board. I'm doing it up in the air for you to see what I'm doing, but do it on the board. Always work on the board. Otherwise you'll poke your finger. And this puts her little hands up under her chin. Not something you have to do. You could add a little flower into her hands using the same method I used there for the hair. Just roll it into a ball and felt through it. So that's her finished now, except for her wings. So normally I would do the wings in white, but so that you can see it, I'm using a colour. So I'm going to use this little coordinating piece of orange. So again, bend it in half and then twist the centre. So I have a little bit of a twist back on the felting board and hold it in place and work through the twist to secure it. This is just so that I have a definite divide on my wings where I know the middle point of each wing. I'm going to turn it over and work on the other side, so that I get a definite centre point to my wings. And again, this all just takes time. So just take your time and work away with it. And that gives me the centre point for the wings. Then I'm going to place them on the mat and pull the fibres out till I get a shape that I'm happy with for my wings. You want the wings to be as close as possible to the same on both sides. They don't have to be 100%, but you don't want one huge big wing on one side and a teeny tiny little wing on the other side. So as near as possible in shape and size to each other. So they're like a big bow. And then you're back to your needle. Now working on your wings does take a good while. And I like, again, these could be wet felted, but I like the texture that kneading felting the wings gives. So that's why I needle felt them. There's loads of different methods that you can use for working with felt. But I think I've said it already. I love the needle felting because I can be working on something. Somebody might call to the house, or I'd have to go and make the dinner or go to work. And I can get up and I can walk away and leave it and then come back to it, and it hasn't moved and it hasn't dried hard or it hasn't set. And I'm not leaving a big mess behind me every time I walk away. It's such a clean, simple craft, this. Now you can use your needle to pull the fibres in as well from the edges. If you see that it's going slightly out of shape, or the shape of the wings is not as symmetrical as you'd like it to be. This is a very free-flowing craft, so everything doesn't have to be hard and rigid. So when I'm happy with that side for now, I'm going to turn them over and I'm going to start working on the other side. So all I've done is just flipped it over and I'll work on the other side now. It does take a lot of work to work on the wings because you need them to be stiff. They'll just flop over if they're not rock solid stiff, but they need to be firm enough to hold their shape. Otherwise they'll just flop over and they won't sit properly. And you can see I'm just randomly working with the needle, but I am making sure that I go all around the edges to keep the fibres in place around the edges. And there's no fast way of doing this. It's just time and patience and working on it until you're happy with it. And you could felt them until they're really hard if you wanted to. If you wanted really rigid wings, you'll find yourself your own method and your own style that you like to use when you're working on these. By just the more you make, the more your style changes and shifts. I had been making fairies all along, but recently my fairies started to turn into angels. So that's what I'm going with now. My fairies are now angels. And just keep fixing it while it's still soft enough that you can work on it to get a nice shape on your wings. And again, always trying to not let your needle go all the way through your board, because the last thing you want is to break the top off your needle before you've finished. My needle is actually bent. I've used it that much. In the beginning, when I started off, I was going through quite a few needles because nobody told me not to be letting the needles go through the board. And I was driving them that hard through. And you don't need to be that hard. You don't need to be hammering at it. It is a great way to get rid of frustration. But the needle only just needs to be going through the foam board. It doesn't need to be going through so hard. It's the in and out repetition that felts the fibres together, not the force that you use to do it. I know it's taking quite a while to do this, but I like you to see the process of how it goes. Because you can see on the dress there's very little work. We're keeping the dress lovely and soft, but the wings do need a little bit more body to them. Now normally I would probably work on these wings a little bit longer, but I think I'll leave it at that now for you, so you're not sitting there forever. This is a pair of white wings that I started earlier, so you can see they're fairly well formed, and this is our orange wings now. Now again, when I'm working on the angels, I tend to hold back a little bit of the fibre of the colour, the bit that I've pulled from the bottom of the dress, and I add it to the white wings just to give them a little bit more texture. So this one is the orange, so I have a little bit of the orange left over from her dress. You won't really see it, so I might actually add a little bit of the nude in that I use for the body, just so you can see it. So you only need the tiniest little bit of fibre and add it on both sides of the wings. It just gives them another little dimension. And again, like that, if you're working with two colours, so say you pick a yellow and a purple for your kit, and you make your angel in yellow, you could add a little bit of purple to her wings and a little bit of purple to her hair and a little bit of purple to her dress, and that will make your angel in two colours. So it's entirely up to you. Just use your own imagination with what you want. And of course you can add beads or little diamantes or coloured ribbon. Really, you can add whatever you want. It's up to yourself. It's up to your own imagination and what materials you have available, extra materials you have available to make, to add to your angels, to make them your own personal angels. And they make lovely gifts. Over Christmas now I had a lot of snow fairies and snow angels, and people really love them. And then these ones are all hanging, but I also do them on stands. I'll show you one now on a stand. The little one with the long hair, she's on a wooden stand so that she doesn't have to be hung up. She can just stand, and you can see she has a flower in her hands. So what I've done with her is I made her arms on wire, and I also made this little one's arms here on wire pipe cleaners so that the arms could be posed. Now if you're doing that, and I wanted her arms to be posed so she could hold a little bird. If you are going to choose to make the arms on wire, you do need to be very careful with your needle, because it's very easy to break your needle on the wire. And all you do if you're going to use the wire is you wrap your felt around the wire or the pipe cleaner. I find pipe cleaners the easiest because with the felty bits on the pipe cleaner, when you wrap the fibre around it, it clings to it. So it makes it a little bit easier than using wire for the arms. You wrap your fibres around the pipe cleaner and then you gently felt them onto place, being very careful not to break the top of your needle. Now, so that is the wings. It's quite hard to see where I've added the little bits in because the wings are multicoloured, but I wanted them coloured so you could see the process taking place. So you can see there now I have my wings. So the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn my angel to the back and look at the wings and decide where I think would be a nice position to place them. Then I'm going to place her down on the board and I'm going to felt her wings into place. And I'm going very gently so I don't drive the felt from the back all the way through the front. I want it attached, but I don't want to carry the fibre from the back through to the front. And secure her wings well in place so that they're not going to come off on you. So there. Now I think it would be nice to move her wings up a little bit like this. So now I'm going to very gently just attach the edges of the wings onto the back of her head. And again, I'm going to do it very carefully because I don't want to pull the brown fibre from her hair out through the wings. But I just think they look nice sitting like that up at the back of her head. And that's all. You saw I very, very gently felted along both of those edges. So she's finished now except for the hanger. So her hanger is this illusion cord. Now I have it threaded through a needle here. This needle doesn't come as part of the kit, but it's just an ordinary sewing needle, even though this particular one looks lethal. It's just easy for me to see. And you put the needle through the back of her head. Pull it through. Hold on to one of the pieces of the cord and pull the other one all the way through so that the illusion cord is through her head like this. And then just tie a knot up at the top. Make sure it's secure. And then twist the knot down to the bottom so that you can't see it up at the top. And you can then tuck the tied ends pull little tiny fibres from her hair. Over the knotted end. So just really gently pull them over the knotted end so that you can't see the knot. And just take your time, take a couple of seconds and do that. It's worth it to finish her off properly. It's just so you can't see the straggly end of the cord. And again, just be careful not to drive the fibres all the way right the way through to her face. It's just enough so that you can't see the cord where you tied the cord. And that's it. That's all you have to do to make your angel. You'll have 2 colours in your kit if you would like the kit, and just PM me below the video and we can get it organised. And I hope if you give it a go that you really enjoy making them. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.